How is it going, you lovely lot? Welcome back to the channel. Football Manager is here and it's back. Yesterday, if you didn't catch it, I had an F1 Manager preview video. Today, we're kicking off the first of a few Park to Prem in the future videos. Here we are in 2037. No, I've not gone forward yet, but I thought before the intro, we'd just remind ourselves of the situation. The club finishing second in the Premier League. I'd resigned as manager, some of the staff had left, many of them hadn't left, and as we can see here, they are still very much in the process of hiring a new manager. You can see wage bill of £3.9 million, state-of-the-art facilities. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on. If I was going to go ahead and give you a prediction, I'd like to think they do quite well with the players that we've got. Given the fact they got 93 points this year, which would have won you the title any other season, I feel fairly confident in saying what we achieved with Rugby Town in terms of one Premier League title is hopefully going to be built upon. I suppose the question becomes, who's it going to be built upon by? And well, it is with that in mind, we are going to go into the future. And if you're wondering, Jack, how do you go into the future with these videos? I just set yearly autosaves and then go on holiday indefinitely, then load up the save games. Speaking of which, I'm going to go away and do that. We're going to run the intro, and afterwards, we're going 1 year in the future. Today, by the way, 1, 2, and then 5 years in the future. I want to see what happens in the immediate aftermath of my departure. Who's in charge? We'll find out in just a mo. Okay, so it is 2038, and I suppose the question is, who's in charge? One thing I'll point out immediately is they're not listed as an available job. So whoever has taken over hasn't been sacked in their first year, unless they were sacked very, very quickly, I suppose. In terms of the best way to get to Rugby Town, I suppose it's by going here, clicking overview, and seeing that Mikel Arteta is manager. Mikel Arteta is manager of Rugby Town. He is the man, just as a reminder, who beat us in the Champions League final. So I lost the Champions League final to him 12 months ago, resigned as manager, and then he just came in and stole my wife, aka Rugby Town. I feel very uncomfortable. Where did Rugby Town finish? I didn't even spot that yet. Okay. Some good news from a selfish point of view. They have finished second under his leadership. In fact, they've dropped the number of points they've got, so pathetic. You can see here, 79 points. They finished in the end 7 points behind Man City, who won their second title in a row. Elsewhere, Aston Villa securing fourth. You know, Football Manager might have been 18 years late with it, but it's got that right. Also, I did say 18 years there. It's only 15 years in the future, 2038, just to confirm. I know it's a scary thought that it's not that far away. So looking here at the tactic that Arteta's been playing, he has been playing a 4-3-3 with Celik at striker, Addons out on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, Diop's been playing as well. Worth noting, 2038, of course, major international tournaments going on at the moment, so a few of our players are going to be away on those. Also, I've said our players there. Of course, they're not my players anymore. Suppose it's worth noting as well, with Diop, Celik, and Addons, they're all kind of in their late 20s, early 30s now. They are three players who, if Arteta is going to build around, are all going to kind of depart at the same time. Further back, it is Misiak and Anderson playing together. You know, the Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard of the Rugby Town universe. I didn't think they could play together. Arteta disagrees. And in terms of the defence, NDIA at centre-back. Some people will love that, others will hate it. And Salmon is alongside him with Alex at right-back. I feel like in terms of the actual team, it's not too outrageous. In terms of the transfers they've done in this season, they signed one player. Kakot joined the club. A Croatian international goalkeeper did actually have to play for them, concerningly. I know our goalkeeping depth options weren't that good. That's a little weird, isn't it? And in terms of sales, they only made £6 million worth of sales, which I feel like indicates they didn't sell anyone big, and in fact, they literally didn't sell anyone big. They loaned out a load of players. The most notable player was Kortstam, who was the backup goalkeeper. Listed as a world-class goalkeeper, they've loaned him to AC Milan. Does anyone else feel like that is Mikel Arteta doing a little bit of a favour for his former club? It's a bit of an inside job going on here. Maybe he's come in to sabotage Rugby Town. Now, just as a little recap with Arteta, as already mentioned, he won the Champions League with AC Milan, beating us in the final. Prior to that, of course, he had a stint at Arsenal in this universe where he did win a Premier League. Elsewhere, took over Bayern and did pretty well with them. In fact, he won the FIFA Club World Cup, went to Milan, won then the Champions League, and now he's come to Rugby Town and he's won one thing in his first year: the Community Shield. How did they get on in other competitions? Because, of course, we got all the way to the Champions League final, and looking at things here, they were knocked out by Man City in the FA Cup, the Champions League quarter-final, and they also lost to them in the Premier League. All those games took place in the space of 2 weeks. And in terms of the Carabao Cup, which of course I never won, they got knocked out in the first round by Leicester, or the first round that they compete in. Maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe it's Rugby Town that are cursed in the EFL Cup. Kind of surprised they've not done more transfer-wise. Sometimes the AI, especially when you build up a very big squad like we did at Rugby Town, they tend to do kind of crazy stuff with the team, kind of moving players in and out and, just rebuilding things like crazy. It's not really what's happened here. Instead, they've kind of kept hold of the core of the team. I imagine there are some players unhappy. In fact, I didn't even spot this earlier. Sam Fay is out on loan at Juventus. I didn't pay enough attention to the loans, apparently. Who else is out on loan here? Sam Fay. Neto's gone on loan to PSG. I'll tell you what, the Sam Fay fans, they are fuming that I've missed that. I don't know what they're more annoyed about. The fact that I missed he'd gone out on loan, or the fact he's gone out on loan at all. Yeah, he's headed to Italy. In terms of the other players out on loan here, I don't think there's anything too shocking. Yeah, I guess Neto to PSG as well, but that is just down to kind of AI squad management. Somewhat surprised they've not sold any of those players, but I suppose from a financial point of view, they didn't necessarily need to sell any players. It'll be interesting to see when we go forward another year what's happening there. Is Arteta going to kind of get to grips with this squad? Are they going to just keep slipping down the league and scoring fewer and fewer points? Let's go find out. Okay, it's 2039. I'm still unemployed. My parents are still complaining about me, telling me I need to get a job. How are Rugby Town doing? They are top. They've won the Premier League. They've won the Premier League with 83 points. Congratulations. Top goal scorer for them was Diop. The top goal scorer in the whole league was Leandro Bernardes, who I've never heard of before. I'm not surprised I've not heard of him. He's won top goal scorer. Is anyone else surprised? He doesn't look very good. Highest average rating, by the way, went to Don with Diop right behind him. And Guerrero, I noticed Guerrero high up before. Guerrero becoming a Man City legend. That does really make me feel uncomfortable. So yes, Rugby Town did win a Premier League title. They were sticking with the 4-3-3. And in terms of personnel, Poirier and NDIA swapping around at centre-back a little bit. Of course, the tactics screen here does only show the most recent team played. So I feel like what we're seeing here is that Arteta didn't really change stuff between his first and second year. Maybe it's just a case of I taught the players to play a certain way for many, many years. It takes a little bit of time for the players to unlearn it. In terms of transfers, they made one signing, which was this guy who's requested to leave the club. The transfer AI doing transfer AI things. They made a signing for 12 million. He played one game all year. In terms of outs, they sold 121 million pounds worth of players, and I've seen this one immediately. Sam Fay has gone to Freiburg. I'm sorry to the Sam Fay fans out there. He's got 14 goals in 28 Bundesliga games for Freiburg. Kind of surprised Freiburg have got 24 million pounds, but yeah, Sam Fay no longer of Rugby Town colours. Maybe that's a testament to just the fact he's not very good. Elsewhere, in terms of notable sales and departures, Dexter Bailey, who was an academy player I had high hopes for, he's just been released. And there was a duo of players that headed to Real Madrid. Neto has gone to Real Madrid. He was sold for £80 million. I mean, we signed him for £25 million. I feel like they've done well to get that kind of money, but equally, maybe he could have been of use to their first team. And Korstam, the goalkeeper we looked at previously, he has gone to Real Madrid for £58 million, which is, it's quite good profit, isn't it, considering we signed him a few years ago for £11 million. So if nothing else, they've made some money. The other big sale, actually, looking at things here, was Swainston, who I feel like Swainston could be a really good player. Like, he had some really high potential, but he just never really developed at rugby. For me, or it looks like, from the looks of things, 2 years in the future. Interesting that Tottenham have spent £24 million on him. He really needs to improve and come good for Tottenham, doesn't he? For that kind of money that they've received. And in terms of other dealings going on, just a whole load of loanings out. I imagine a fair few of these players will probably just be released. I have noticed at the bottom, Roger Rojas, on loan at Manchester United, joining permanently in June. How much have they paid? How much? It doesn't really matter how much they paid. He's going to Manchester United. I hate it. I really, really hate it. I want that known. Now, in terms of how they're doing it in other competitions, let's have a look here. They won the Community Shield again. Congratulations, Arteta. In the Champions League, how far did they make it? They made it to the final. They lost to AC Milan again. David Gilliland scored in the final at Wembley as well. Of course, hometown hero Gilliland. They lost against AC Milan again. And that's against Arteta's former club as well. It's not great. I'm trying to find a positive. Alex played well at right back. That's the positive I found. But of course, they did win a Premier League, so not all lost. In the FA Cup, they were knocked out. In the EFL Cup, they lost to Leicester. That does feel like a little bit of a shock. They were knocked out 4-2 on aggregate. And then Leicester, did they go on to win the whole thing? Can they cling on to that idea, oh, well, we lost to the eventual champions? They can. Leicester winning the Carabao Cup and finishing firmly mid-table in the Premier League. In terms of players with most appearances, Huari right up there. Interesting to note that Dennis Afoni they are really leaning on, and actually looking at it, I think he is getting better. Afoni was a player who joined us having barely played, any football for Real Madrid over many, many years, but our staff thought he had good potential. He's now had 4 years at Rugby Town. He's definitely better than when I signed him. I do feel like goalkeepers can just develop that little bit longer. Elsewhere, Bailey Salmon is unhappy at the moment, but he has played 52 games for the club, the 22-year-old, which I guess bodes well that he is a good little player. I said it, I think, in the wrap-up episode previously, that I really hope that Bailey Salmon is the man they build around. Hopefully he doesn't leave the club. As I mentioned, Huari up there with the most appearances. He is still very much the Huari we know and love. In terms of the squad, I mentioned the fact that the likes of Addons, Celik, Diop are all kind of around the same age. It's going to be very interesting when we do this next jump forward a further 3 years to see how those players get on. Worth noting, Goldsmith is still just at the club. I feel like he's just going to get released. Interesting as well, Celik top goal scorer, Addons and Diop right up there behind. And in terms of assists, it was all of those players again. And then Marky Anderson coming good, the 23-year-old, a player who I do kind of back to have a good career at the club, with 11 assists. That was a new personal best for him. Also have noticed here, Lee Min has been promoted to vice-captain and Donald is listed as their key player. Donald has got better. I mean, he's injured at the moment, which is a bit annoying. He has definitely got better, hasn't he, since he joined the club. It kind of annoys me the amount of positions he can play, but in terms of his actual attributes, he can pretty much play any role that isn't striker, which is absolutely mad, to be honest. Now, maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, because I know I'm going to get some comments about it, and people do skip through the videos, so they won't get to this bit. So if you see a comment asking this, please just reply to it for me. Save my sanity. The save games for the In the Future Sims will be available upon Part 3 releasing. So when Part 3 goes out, over on my Discord server, I will be posting a download link to where you can get your hands on all the In the Future save games, and, crucially, all the In the Past Park to Prem save games. So if you want to jump into the save game at the point I ended it, or sooner, kind of in the earlier years, you are going to be able to do that. That'll all, as I said, come out when Part 3 releases, which will be 100 years in the future. I left my PC on a lot, racked up my energy bill. I have that save game. So to conclude things today, I have gone to 2042. Of course, we've got 3 years to catch up on here. Where are Rugby Town? I click on the Premier League screen. They're down in third. I'm trying to find a positive on this screen. Roger Rojas has got 18 goals for Manchester United. He's the second top goal scorer in the Premier League. Look at his stats in the last 3 years for Manchester. I feel sick. I'm going to find a positive. Addons, highest average rating, also most man of the matches. So Alexi really doing his thing. The 33-year-old is starting to show signs of decline. How long has he got left on his current deal? He's got 1 more year left on it. I wonder if they'll keep extending that, because it looks like he is still a pretty crucial part of their team. Elsewhere, I'm noticing a new Rugby Town player in Tyson Caruso, who I did actually look at signing at one point. Really, really good English regen that came through in the save game. Was playing for Fulham. I got put off by his price of 81 million. Rugby Town signed him for 81 million. And he's played quite well for them. I mean, he's got a 7.51 rating and 11 goals as a midfielder in the Premier League. That's good. Now, over on the Rugby Town profile here, we can see that Arteta is still manager. Celik, 33 years old, is captain. Look at him. Look how they've massacred my boy. His legs are slowly starting to go. Interesting to note, he is still on international duty with England, so he's not retired from international football. He did get 15 goals the season just gone. Caruso is listed as the key player, and Danny Armson, a player of the next generation of Rugby Town players to come through the academy, is the hot prospect. Isn't he any good? I mean, he's got a cap for England at 18, so he can't be awful, but I'm a bit underwhelmed. Now, of course, we have just simmed 3 years. There are going to be a fair few changes here, but one thing that's not changed is Arteta is still in charge. Let's have a look, first and foremost, at previous Premier League seasons, starting with this season here. This was the season where Rojas had just joined Manchester United, and with him scoring 18 goals, they won the Premier League by 2 points over Rugby Town. The previous year, Rugby had won the title, as we saw, with 83 points. They could only finish runners-up with Manchester City trailing behind. The next year, they did win the league, so he has got a Premier League title again, Arteta. And then for the year just gone, as we saw already, they have now dropped down to third, so yeah, a little bit annoying that. And if we look at competitions here, no Champions Leagues won, still just the one runner-up spot, but I was going to say, but they've won other stuff. I don't know if they have won other stuff. What's happened in the last 3 years? Let's start with the fixtures here for the first of the kind of 3 years that we've just done. Where did they get to in the Champions League? They lost in the semi-final against Barcelona, and they also lost in the FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal. Arteta coming undone against his former club in the EFL Cup. Did they win the EFL Cup? They did win the EFL Cup, finally. Rugby Town has a Carabao. 2040-41, 4 years after I left the club. How did they get on? Well, we know that they didn't make it very far in the Champions League. I say they didn't make it far. They got battered 6-0 on aggregate by Barcelona. So, yeah, that's embarrassing. In terms of other cup competitions, they got knocked out by Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, and they lost to Man City in the EFL Cup. I want to say I'm surprised that Arteta kept his job there, but I guess winning the title kind of papered over the cracks. And then for the most recent year, they lost in the Champions League semi-final again, so no success in the Champions League. They did also lose, you can see here, against Man City in the FA Cup final. So that is nothing short of disastrous, but crucially, they won the big one. The EFL Cup, secured for a second time in 3 years by Rugby Town. So in terms of transfers in those 3 years that we just simulated, this was the most notable window, I think, in terms of signings. They signed £258 million worth of players in the first of the 3 seasons. The big expensive players here were Maksimovic, who has already left the club. They signed him for 41 million. He played 10 games for Rugby Town and they sold him for 3.6. Full Edge AI got better this year, apparently. They signed Alejandro Nunes from Liverpool. They definitely did sign him. I am looking at Rugby Town's transfers here. He now plays for Manchester City. Rugby signed him for 61 million. He played a handful of games for them, and now he's on loan and been signed by Man City for 68 million. I feel like somehow Rugby Town got ripped off there, but they have managed to rip off Man City, so that one's okay. And in terms of other transfers there, Caruso, we already saw him, the 81 million pound man. I'm sure Rugby Town fans wish they'd got him that cheap. He definitely was worth the money. In terms of transfers out in that first year, Roger Rojas left the building. We know that happened. Manchester United won the league when that happened. Elsewhere, Michael Bolton left the club to go to Man City for 49 million, where he had a couple of middling years, really, by his own standards, and then, well, he's pissed off to Bologna. Of course, it does go without saying when it comes to these sims in the future, I could make the video infinitely long going in depth. The save games will be available to download in the future, where you can really look at each and every little thing in nitty-gritty detail. Here is a list of all the different players going out on loan. Interesting to see Mateus out on loan at PSG for the year just gone. Oh, not for the year just gone, a couple of years ago. He then came back to the club and has actually played quite well since. As for 2040-41, they signed a couple of players from Flamengo. Yes, of course, we signed players from Flamengo during our time at the club. Cow here is one player they picked up. That's definitely not how you say his name. He's very, very good, isn't he? For £20 million, that is a bargain buy. That is like Quarry number 2, Electric Boogaloo. They also signed Uzun from Salzburg, who is very, very underwhelming and is already leaving the club to go to Inter Milan. And also Fernando Miguel, who is equally kind of meh. Although at least they only spent 25 million. In terms of departures, £105 million worth of sales. Gilliland headed off to Juventus. I want to say you love to see it. I really want Gilliland to be a great player, and to be fair, he is pretty blooming good, isn't he? His polygon is impressive. He scored in a Champions League final for them. He's had a couple of really good years in Serie A, which makes me feel happy. I did also notice here, Diego went to Arsenal, and now he's been loaned instantly to Monaco. So, not great for him. He got 2 goals in 23 games. Agent Diego, you love to see it. And of course, alongside those players that were sold, there were a load of players that also were released and kind of just left on free transfers. I'm looking for notable players here. I can't really see any, to be honest. And for year 5, upon our departure, they signed barely anyone. Diego Carlos, not the Diego Carlos you're thinking of. This guy signed on a free transfer. Very underwhelmed. They spent the most money, £30 million on Saez here. He doesn't look that great, does he, if we're being honest? And the other man they signed was this bloke. Okay, I'll tell you what, Arteta really needs to work on his transfers. I feel like he's living off my transfers right now. As I mentioned already, Alejandro Nunes, we knew left the building. Elsewhere, NDIA to Real Madrid for £62 million. You know what? Given the fact he's 29, he's about to turn 30 next month, I feel like they've actually done quite well to get 60 million for NDIA. 11 years this man spent at Rugby Town. I feel like that deserves to be saluted or something. Turnier, the other big departure, player that we signed with loads of potential. They have at least flipped him on for some money, but he didn't really develop all that much for them. If you were wondering about tactical system as well, here is how Arteta's been lining up. Interesting to see the kind of transition period here. Vasquez is still at the club. He is playing at striker. Are the old guards still here in the future? Let's have a quick look here. I didn't see them leaving. Diop is about to join Sevilla at the end of the year. I feel like Diop's been a pretty good servant to the club, hasn't he? His goal scoring definitely fell off in the last few years. Celik, on the other hand, not showing any signs of leaving just yet. 33 years old. I mean, his physicals have gone, haven't they? But he is still playing well, as we already established. And Alexi is also still at the club. My concern in the next few years is going to be how to replace this from free. You know, it's a bit like Barcelona with SAS. And I feel like they're still trying to replace those players even now. And even, I suppose, the likes of Huari, he's 32 now. Lee Min, 30 years old now. Ifoni is going to be 30 as well. As I'm going through this list of players, I'm realising the vast majority of this squad is players that I signed. I mean, heck, look, even Reptar's here still. Just as a reminder, I spent £82 million on this man. Not sure he's £82 million good. Top goal scorer, by the way, in the future at the moment, still Celik. Really leaning on him for goals. Misiak had a great little year, and Cow, that's what I'm just going to call him, that's definitely not how you say his name, he's had a very, very good year as well. Most appearances went to Bailey Salmon. I love that. He's now 25 years old. The boy has become a man. 233 appearances already for the club as well is mighty impressive, and I suppose a good way to wrap up this, the first of the three in the future videos, is to look at the current best 11 as it is 5 years on. Of course, a couple of Premier League titles won. No Champions League. Other silverware, to be fair, has been secured. Does feel weird seeing Sam Fay at centre mid in the overall best 11. Sam Fay, by the way, still at Freiburg, still chilling. He's doing fine. I mean, if nothing else, I think we can safely say that Rugby Town have established themselves as one of the powerhouses of English football. They've not dropped below third now in the last, 9 years, including the 4 when we were at the club. They have done very, very well. Bit of a shame they've only won 2 Premier Leagues, but maybe they are going to be able to sneak 1 or 2 more before this dynasty really falls off. If you did spot anything in this video that maybe I missed going through, because let's be honest, I'm looking at a big sheet of spreadsheets, there is going to be little things and details that I missed. Let me know them down in the comments. You guys always seem to spot stuff that I've missed. I'm sure there'll be some weird irregularities or things that pop up, players, familiar names and faces and stuff that I'd be interested to hear about. I have noticed here, David Sinkule is playing for Liverpool. He was up there with the most player of the matches. That's awkward, isn't it? 28 years old. He's actually doing quite well, isn't he? They signed him for 47 million, Liverpool. He's been consistently one of their best goal scorers. How much did I sign him for? I sold him for 30 million. Not great. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little look at the save game at 5 years in the future. Just a little reminder, uploads are a little infrequent over the next couple of weeks. Bear that in mind. The next episode will probably be dropping on Monday, just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. If you have enjoyed this one, please go down below the video, leave a like, leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. It's me, Jack. I'll talk to you in a bit. I'm out.